Yes.
What does your breathwork practice look like? Is it daily? Is it, multiple times a day? What specific breathwork techniques do you? I'm just curious because I love it so much.
Yeah. No. So I do like some Zoom online ones actually because I just like the energy of the group and the accountability. And then I'll do, for me, every time I hit a red light, I'll make sure that I try to do as slow a breathing as possible at the red lights just to help calm my
Mm.
nervous system down. And that's a trigger to remind me or to check in with my breath. Am I breathing short? Am I giving all that anxiety up, or can I calm my system down a little bit more than what I'm doing? So I use the trigger meditation of a red light to start breathing slower. But otherwise, I'll probably do breath work once or twice a day because it just grounds me so much.
Yeah, it's grounding. It probably helps with your lung capacity and things
Mhm.
like that. I like that, the red light, to have that be a trigger to remind you to breathe slower. For me, I have like a bathroom trigger. Like every time I go and sit down and just am in the bathroom, I just say to myself, thank you for allowing me to utilize my strengths and strengthen my weaknesses. I just like, it started when I was living in Austria and had a pretty intense job, working a lot of hours, a lot of roles, and it would be like my sanctuary. I would just go in there and kind of repeat that. Do you have any others besides the red light or things? I love doing that with my clients too. It's like, okay, what are you already doing, right? When you're driving, I guess hopefully you hit that green wave, but most of the time you're gonna hit a red light. And those are moments where we can just kind of like stack it together, where it's like red light means breathe slower. Are there any other trigger habits that you have implemented that you're like, that totally works for me?
Yeah, so I have, how we have alarms on our phones?
Totally.
I've labeled my alarms. So I'll have an alarm go off in the afternoon at 3 p.m. every day when the kids are in school, and it says Magnificent Mom. And when that alarm goes off, it reminds me to step into the avatar of Magnificent Mom. And so then if I'm doing things that a magnificent mom wouldn't be doing per my definition, it helps me like just check in and shut that world down and step into this world that I need to do for the next few hours because this is the time my kids need me. And so I really find setting alarms, or if I'm going to work out, I actually set a bedtime. I'm less worried about my morning routine. I'm more worried about my night routine. So at 10 o'clock, it says serious sleeper, and it's an alarm that goes off to remind me, like, stop scrolling, stop doing whatever you're doing, get to bed, because anything after this is borrowing the next day. And I don't want to take that from my next day.
Yeah, I love that. And the power of our phones, right? The alarms, we're already connected to it all the time. What is the avatar of Magnificent Mom? What is that for you? What is she doing?
Yeah.
What does she do? What are you doing?
So she's patient. I think it's the number one thing. She's eluding love. So anytime my kids come home from school, it can be a little hectic because there's so much energy that they have to dissipate from just the day. And I remind myself that this is the meditation. Like when my kids trigger me or there's things going on, I don't need to be in a meditative state to do meditation. The meditation is living life every day. So when I see them struggling or whatever, the meditation is, how do I alleviate that, or how do I help them recognize, like, oh wow, your body seems to be telling me that it's having a hard time calming down right now. Do you want to go, what do you think would help? Do you want to go take a walk? Do you want a glass of water? Do you want to get up and then come back to this project or whatever else? But it's very much going into an awareness state, a loving state, and a state of patience.
Awareness, loving, and patient. Yeah, that sounds magnificent. That's cool that you know that. And I think it's important that we do know that. And we know whether it's Magnificent Mom or whatever it might be, to know like what specifically am I doing when I'm being that? Because it's one thing to say, okay, I want to be this or I want to be that. And we can get so like, chunked up in the idea, but it's so important to be like, okay, what specifically does that look like? And how do I need to, yeah, like you said, maybe switch off one mode and switch into another. Does the alarm always work for you? Like where you're like magnet and you're able to make that switch? Do you feel like it's in your programming enough where it comes on? I love this. And I feel like it comes with practice too, right? Of like
Yes,
honoring the
yes,
alarm, right?
yes, yes. Everything's a practice. And if I'm finishing something up, then I hit snooze. Right? I don't like, there's a number of times that I can hit, okay, turn it off, we're ready to go, game over, next game, come on. But if there's a thing that hey, I'm finishing up this project, I'm allowed to hit snooze once. It gives me about 9 more minutes or something like that to finish what I'm doing and then transition over. And then if I don't transition over, I'm not living the avatar that I said I would. And if I can't live the avatar that I said I would, then I start losing trust and confidence in who I am. And that I can't compromise.
Yeah. Yeah. When we don't do what we said we're going to do, we lose the trust in our own selves and end up becoming kind of I don't want to say our enemy, but just kind of our own biggest hindrance to what we said we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's really powerful. I want to talk about your book a little bit, the 7 strategies for life goals and business success. We don't have to go through all 7, of course, because I want everyone to grab your book and read it. But what are maybe 1 or 2 of the strategies that you cover in that book that you could share with us today?
Yeah. So I'd say one of the big ones is committing to the commitment.
Mm.
So you are the only person that has your experiences and your viewpoint and your calling. And so you have to be the strongest in that commitment because nobody else can be stronger than you. And so understanding that they're going to get their strength from your strength. And I think that's a really big thing for people to step into. When I was on a mountain one year, we didn't summit, and I had delegated some of the roles that I should have held on to myself so that everybody knew, hey, here's what our goal is, here's how serious we are, here's how it's going to happen. And if you don't communicate that to everybody, then not everybody might be at the same commitment level you are. And they're probably always going to be a level below you because it's not their record that they're trying to set. But you have to be so steadfast in your commitment that they can borrow courage and strength from you to help carry you forth in your goal. I think that's a big one. And the other big one is people over peaks. And I'll share a story from the book of when I went to go climb Everest. I had realized I was worried. I had never been on a mountain that big. It's Everest. I mean, and I had just not a ton of mountaineering experience when I stepped into the goal. And I remember thinking, if my hair gets wet, it's going to take days for it to dry and I'm going to get sick. Okay. And I don't want to get sick. So I called a company. I said, hey, listen, I'm looking to climb Everest. I was wondering if I needed to bring a hair dryer to dry my hair. Like, could you accommodate? And the first company I called said, we don't even know what you're talking about. Like, absolutely no. Like, we're not doing this. I said, okay, fine, bye. So I called the second company and they said, yes, you can borrow the dryer like once a week. We'll let you use the generator and that should be fine. I said, okay. And then I called the third company and the third company said, do you want a mirror? And I'm like, yes, I do want a mirror. Like, thank you. Right. Like, I don't even have to like feel shameful for what I'm not asking for shrimp. I'm asking for a hair dryer so that I don't get sick and can like move up this mountain. So I actually had a company in town donate a solar powered battery, which at the time I thought I wasn't thinking. I was like, okay, I'll bring the solar powered battery and like dry my hair. And then I realized, oh, the solar powered battery has to be out in the sun. So now I have to like hair dry my hair out in front of everybody and try to like, instead of being secret in my tent. And at first I was embarrassed, but then I realized after a few women came up to me and they said, hey, Jen, thank you for drying your hair and at Everspace Camp and giving us permission to be women in this male dominated industry and not apologize for the things that we need that will allow us to succeed in whatever pursuit we're doing. And that was this huge lesson of, listen, ask for what you need. If it's an authentic need that you perceive, maybe it's somebody else's need as well. And by you having the courage to ask for it, you're giving other people permission to have courage to ask for what they need. And that's super important for all of us. And that was just a big lesson that I like run in my head all the time, the hair dryer story.
Yeah. And it's a freaking hair dryer. And it's so cool to see that the hair dryer. I worked with a client once where there was a situation with a cat, right? And the cat made such a big difference. And we were just like, it's a freaking cat. It's a hair dryer. But knowing that, hey, we can ask for what we might need. We can, stand firm in what we know is going to be helpful for us. And then other people can see it. And that's like their unofficial permission slip to be like, oh, I want a hair dryer too. Like that's
Yes.
super, super cool. But the one thing I do know just from talking with women and just working with women too, is that we oftentimes are, afraid to, or don't say, hey, I need this. We're more like, hey, what do you need? And others oriented with our kids and others. And I know you're working with clients and stuff too. How do you help others be able to like ask for what they need. I mean, you asked 3 times and finally that third time was a charm. You got the hair dryer, you got the mirror. Like, what would be your advice for somebody listening who maybe struggles to ask for what they might need?
Yeah. I mean, I would say for me, it helped to have children because I would always pretend if I was my daughter Jana or my daughter Julia, I would want them to have the courage to ask. And I would always pretend that I'm asking for the benefit of them, even though it's me
Mm.
who's asking. And so then when you are struggling with asking for something that you want, think of somebody that you love or you care about, and you really hope that they have the courage to do it. You borrow that feeling of care and concern for them and you apply it to yourself, and then you ask, and you'd be amazed at how many times you receive.
Yeah, you just put yourself in your child's shoes and ask as if you are them. Because I think a
Yeah.
lot of parents, yeah, and mothers listening can resonate with, the love and, adoration and everything for their kids to be like, okay, if that was my kid, how would they ask and kind of embody their courage just a little bit. That's wonderful. Um, in your bio, I read to create a thriving business and lasting legacy of their own. And when it comes to that lasting legacy, I mean, you're so eloquent with words. I know you're a speaker and have a podcast and all those things, but like, what is that lasting legacy that you are leaving?
Right. So I'll give an example. I was climbing Mount Tyree in Antarctica. It had only been summited one time before by a female who was a guide. So I was the first American female, second female ever. And I remember standing on the side of the mountain thinking, if I would have been born when my mom or my grandma were, I would have never been in this spot. Like this, like I'm so grateful that I was born at the time that I was born and I had the courage to step into something that was crazy. And so I knew like I was carrying our flag up to the top of that mountain. And that is just a sign. Like, here's where we are now, everybody in the world. Here's the flag. Where are you going to take it next? Because everything we do impacts every generation rippled wise. And so, wherever you are in the world, whatever little corner that you can make a difference, the tiniest little thing elevates all of us. And it's just so important to remember that the things we do are leaving legacy, either expanding what's possible or shrinking what's possible. And it's very important for us to tune into that because we're all connected.
Mm. That's wonderful. Yeah, to look back and think. I often think about that too. And my mother and grandmother, and even my great grandmother, who I was fortunate enough to know. And I think she passed away when I was like 14, 15. She came, yeah, from a different country, and I'm thinking, if it wasn't for that move, and I do look back at that lineage with so much gratitude. And yeah, I have a picture of her framed. And I just think about that a lot, where it's like, yeah, I like what you said about passing the flag. I didn't think of that before, but that visual really resonates. And so, yeah, thank you for that. I so appreciate you and your time today and your lasting legacy that you're bringing to this world. I feel so like my whole, like, I don't know if this happened before, but like, I feel like I have like this like goosebump electric energy like down my leg. So after we get off this, I'm going to need to like jump around and go outside and move a
Woo!
little bit because I just feel, yeah, some type of way. So thank you. That's a
Yeah.
gift.